Today's Wednesday, August 26, 2026. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund is demanding that Congress and the United Nations launch independent investigations into a series of suspicious deaths of Black Americans. We'll talk to their leader, Janai Nelson. An appeals court vacates a ruling that Georgia's redistricting congressional maps violated Black voters' rights. I told you how the war on Black America continues. Black Voters Matter. Cliff Albright will join us to discuss the organization's latest Get Out the Vote initiative that you can do in your own backyard. The lights are back on in Gary, Indiana. We'll continue our coverage of the city's power outage crisis. Today, some good news. Most of the city finally has power. A city council member will give us the latest as well. In Fort Worth, the city council unanimously approves a multi-million-dollar settlement for the estate of Atatiana Jefferson, a Black woman killed by a white cop in her home during a non-emergency call. Donald Trump is toying with the idea that less regulation would enable farmers and ranchers to do their own slaughtering. So no food protection? Yeah, that's stupid. It's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the fine. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Yesterday, we read off a list of about a dozen stories of African Americans who've been found hanging in this country, many of them in the South. Well, the Legal Defense Fund has sent letters to Congress and the United Nations urging government officials to address the increasing number of suspicious deaths of Black individuals. In the letters, LDF President and Director-Counsel Janai Nelson emphasized the need for accurate data collection and thorough investigations into these suspicious deaths across the U.S. The Civil Rights Organization referenced a separate report that identifies 70 potential modern-day lynching cases taking place between 2000 and 2025 in seven southern states. Again, we told you about 8 Black individuals found hanging since January, 6 that were ruled as suicides. Joining us right now is Janai Nelson. Janai, glad to have you back on the show. 70 in the last 25 years. And oftentimes what happens, Janai, it's, suicide. Do you believe that these have not been properly investigated?
Yes, I do not believe that the deaths that we're referring to have been properly investigated. We cannot say for certain what happened in specific cases, but we deserve to know. This year marks the 250th anniversary of our founding as a new nation, but the issue that is persistent all of those 250 years is that Black lives have been devalued. And that is something that we must correct. We cannot have these instances of Black people found dead under similar conditions to lynchings and not investigated. That is a dereliction of duty as a responsible multiracial democracy that owes a debt to the people who have suffered from hangings for decades and have been part of this worst part of our history. We deserve to have some understanding, some data collection, some responsiveness from our federal government and from state and local officials. People don't typically hang themselves, not in this number, not with this frequency, and we need to investigate it to make certain that we are not experiencing a recurrence of some of the worst chapters of this country's history.
And the problem that we have, and look, we've been talking about this for the longest. The problem is that we have a Justice Department that does not give a damn about Black people. Donald Trump made it clear that they're not going to investigate cases that deal with police brutality. This is a DOJ that cares more about white grievance than addressing these type of issues.
Yes, that's right. And it's unfortunate that we can't rely on the Department of Justice. But, you know, I will say that this country has had racial bias in its criminal legal system for as long as it has existed. We know that our victimhood is often denied and often ignored. And the reality is that there are suspicious deaths happening. That's the one thing we know for sure. And there's a rush to judgment to label these deaths a suicide without the thorough, transparent investigation that every single life in this country deserves, especially when we're seeing this type of concerning and alarming pattern.
And again, what immediately jumps out, we discussed this yesterday, when you talk about typically suicide. For African Americans, the idea of hanging is not one that is common.
That's right. That's right. It isn't common. I mean, what it all harkens back to is, as I said, one of the worst periods of our history from 1877 to 1950, where 4,000 Black people were lynched, many of them in southern states, many of them by hanging. And we define lynching as an extrajudicial killing that is a public act. And we don't know whether these are lynchings. I want to be very clear that we are not going to rush to judgment. We're not going to ascribe particular labels without having the correct evidence. But the pattern certainly should give rise to some serious investigation, data collection, and tracking. And that's precisely why we have a Congress that has investigative authority. Our Congress has pulled together commissions and task forces to study various policy problems and concerns in this country. And the Legal Defense Fund has flagged the increasing number of Black people dying by hanging under suspicious circumstances as a policy public problem that needs federal government attention.
I remember.
Similarly,
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and similarly, we know that this is an issue that could potentially be a series of human rights violations. And so we contacted the United Nations Council on Human Rights to ask that they also form a commission to look into this pattern of Black death that is unexplained and unexamined.
I remember when the lynching bill was finally passed. And you had some Simple Simons out here who were saying, oh, you know what, this is too little too late. And we kept saying, no, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, that it still serves a purpose. So you have a law. Now, granted, you say you're not calling these lynchings, but there's a reason you have a law on the books that specifically deals with that. But to your point, if you don't investigate, then you can't actually know if this is truly the case.
That's right. The Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act is on the books and is a relatively new law, just a few years old. And it is there because we have this history, this looming taint and stain on this country. And we want to be certain that we never experience a period of time like that again. We don't want to be years later looking back on this moment and saying that we were witnessing the beginning of a tragedy and we did nothing. We didn't look into it, even though all the signs were there, even though we know about this history of using Black death as a deterrent, as a intimidation tactic, as a terrorist operative. We know that that is part of our history. And we also know that these are very suspicious deaths. And we know that local and state and federal law enforcement often undervalues Black life and does not give adequate inquiry into our deaths. So we are saying we're not going to allow that to continue to occur. We are making this a national and international issue that requires attention and intervention.
You said you sent letters to Congress. Who do they go to?
We sent letters to the Speaker of the House. We sent letters to the Speaker, the head of the Senate, and the minority leaders of both chambers. And we expect that this will be addressed as the nonpartisan public policy concern that it is. This is something that every single American should care about. We should not have a slew of a particular group of people dying in suspicious ways, and everyone is not clamoring for an investigation to make sure that we don't have a dangerous pattern afoot, that there's no criminal conduct that needs to be run down. That is something that should be a no-brainer. It should receive support from every single Congress member. We are simply asking for an inquiry. We're asking for data collection. We're asking for resources to be deployed to investigate this very, very concerning trend.
And the thing here, and I always make this point, we are still constituents. Mike Johnson represents black people in Louisiana, a significant number of black people. You've got Republicans in southern states that represent black people. United States senators in Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Florida, South Carolina, they represent black people.
Absolutely. Whether we voted for them or not, we are represented by every single Congress member from our state who is there to represent our interests, especially if we live in their districts. So we would love for people who live, in the district of any one of those leaders, or frankly, to contact any Congress member and emphasize the demand for an investigation. Congress answers to the people, and when the people have a concern, Congress has a duty to act. That is why we elevated this concern on behalf of the families who are left without answers, who are questioning the results from local law enforcement and state law enforcement, who so quickly come to a conclusion that some of these were suicides, when there are all manner of indicators that that is possibly not the correct answer. And we want answers, and we deserve for our taxpayer dollars to go to ensuring that Black lives are treated equally and are protected as much as any other life. If this were a trend or something that we were seeing happen with other groups, I'm sure there would be a groundswell of concern and demands that would be coming at Congress and to all other bodies. We know that the Department of Justice has been asked by the Congressional Black Congress to look into this. We are going to Congress. Congress owes us this investigation and this responsiveness when you have a crisis of this magnitude before it gets worse. And that's what we are asking of our representatives, and we're also asking that of the United Nations. You
mentioned Congress. Letters also went to DOJ, but what about the White House?
We didn't send a letter to the Department of Justice. The Congressional Black Caucus did. We, have not the most faith in what this Department of Justice can and will do, although they too are obligated to take this seriously. And we do not absolve them of that obligation and responsibility. But that advocacy has already happened. What we are demanding is that Congress, which is directly accountable to the people, that they use their investigative authority and make sure that we are properly investigating these deaths, that this is a trend that is concerning against the backdrop of America's long history of lynchings, long history of racial bias in law enforcement, inadequate reviews by medical examiners. All of the data points in the direction that these deaths have not gotten adequate attention and deserve more. And Congress has that power.
And last question, are you also going to be challenging these other media outlets that have frankly ignored it as well? Again, we've talked about it. Again, when you see one, then you see two. But all of a sudden, when you start seeing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we call that a trend. And unfortunately, it's not getting the level of coverage as well.
It's not. And that was also why we wanted to make sure that we sent this letter, that we circulated this letter. We will continue to follow up with Congress members. We are going to continue to advocate for a full study because the media is not taking it as seriously as it should. We know that there was another suspicious death just this past Friday, a man by the name of Demetrius Fleming, 38 years old, who was found dead in his home in Roanoke Rapids, hanging from a tree. Again, this is a tragic circumstance that is not common, and yet it is becoming increasingly common in the Black community. Why is that? We don't have the answers. We know that there's been a rush to judgment in many instances, and we deserve a full, thorough, and transparent investigation at the behest of Congress, using all of the resources that our taxpayer dollars fund. And that is the level of accountability that we want, and we won't settle for less.
Janai Nelson, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you for covering this important issue. You're doing more than most media is doing right now, so thank you.
Well, we're not going to stop. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. I want to go to my panel right now. Robert Patillo, civil rights attorney with Patillo Law Firm out of Atlanta. Dr. Derek Jackson, state representative out of Georgia. Joe Richardson, civil rights attorney out of Los Angeles. Glad to have all three of you here. Joe, I'll start with you. What Janai just laid out, again, she didn't call these lynchings. She says suspicious deaths. When you have to look at them in its totality and look at the number, yeah, you need someone going back and making sure that these were real investigations.
Yeah, and there are several through lines here, including but not limited to a light investigation following the death. You know, I would be looking at data related to what was actually done as it pertains to autopsy, what was actually done surrounding every aspect of the investigation, so that you know that you've left no stone unturned. But clearly, your spidey senses are going to tingle when you have this many lynchings going on. When you match that, this tracks with what's being said, it matches with what's being threatened, it matches with the boldness with which certain people are moving, how they want us to go back to the 18th, 19th century, even mid-20th century, et cetera. And so, therefore, it's incredibly important that hopefully not only can something be put in place here, can something be done in response to what's going on now, but something hopefully can be put in place at some point, and maybe this is something Congress will work on if the Democrats get power, as it were, something that puts in a mechanism, some kind of oversight. If the court's not going to deal with voting and have certain barriers that you have to get past in order to do X or Y or Z, Congress, with the opportunity, Hakeem Jeffries, et cetera, Pete Aguilar, should be doing something that creates oversight and consistency related to that issue.
Well, the oversight, Robert, you have congressional committees that serve that particular purpose. But the reality is what Janai is talking about requires the executive branch to do their job. And so when you talk about investigative powers, that's really FBI, Department of Justice. That's typically who will be doing these sort of things. To her point, we know that this is an anti-Black Department of Justice. So they're not going to do it. So I think what she's saying, and I certainly agree with, this is where you can have actually congressional hearings. This is where you can have field hearings by taking it to these places and then asking those officials, police officials and others, to come testify about these cases.
And look, I think the most important part about that is just understanding that elections indeed have consequences. Whenever we have these conversations with people and they say, well, why do I need to vote? What exactly is the point? What do I get out of it? This is what you get out of it. When you have a Department of Justice now, which has a Civil Rights Division, which has absolutely no interest in investigating issues involving African-American civil rights violations, and spend more time investigating whether or not there are transgenders in bathrooms or playing basketball. That's really what the Department of Justice is working on right now. You realize that not having that federal backstop allows these white identity extremists to operate within the shadows. We know the Justice Department reported during the Biden administration that these white identity extremist groups were operating in the shadows, and they were the biggest threat to national security that America was facing at the time. And the Trump administration came in and completely cleared all that out, got rid of the departments that were investigating it, fired the officers who were working on it. So we are going to have to take these things deeply within our own hands. We're going to have to put together the types of research things, the type of retired FBI agents, police officers that can really get in here. We're going to have to raise the money in order to pay these people and send investigative materials off to labs. We're going to need Black citizen journalism. If we can make Glorilla and Sexy Red famous, we can make sure that we're putting the type of attention on these matters needed in order to sway public opinion. We don't have to wait on Nancy Grace or anybody else to show up. We can keep the heat on and keep the work going. Then we have to do that right now because we do not have a government behind us that supports us or supports Black liberation.
But the reality, Derek, you don't have the level of reporters that you need. Unfortunately, we would talk about what's happening with Black-owned media. Doesn't exist. And I mean, once it doesn't exist, I mean, most of these people out here, they're focusing on entertainment. This is why we keep saying you got to support Black-owned media. We have to invest in it. Listen, I would love, listen, there's an office right next to us that's been empty for 5 years. I would love to be able to put 6, 8, 10 reporters and editors in there to do these stories. Guess what? If we're able to get an additional $2 to $3 million in advertising or support a year, boom, that's done. Instantly, we will be the largest Black newsroom in the country. That goes to show you what's going on in terms of what is needed. And frankly, let's just be real. Ebony is not what Ebony used to be. Jet doesn't exist. Essence is not what Essence used to be. Black Enterprise is not what Black Enterprise used to be. So we don't have those national outlets that historically would be covering stories like this. We don't. We have to reconstruct it.
Yeah, listen, Roland, you're exactly right. I mean, think about, to your point, why was the NAACP created in 1909? Because of lynchings. They got tired in 1906, 1907, 1908, seeing all these lynchings and these massacres, and those who saw it fit, Black people and white people, said we need to invest. We need to create an organization to not only hire lawyers and attorneys, folks like Robert, and that's when they formed the NAACP. They created the NAACP to say no one else is going to tell this story. No one else is going to come to those grieving families. Grieving families right now are asking for justice. But meanwhile, they have individuals, they don't want to say that this is a lynching, but they're real quick to call it a suicide without investigation. The other point I was going to highlight, if Janai was still on, Roland, is that the state legislatures don't just talk about the federal government. It's great that you send letters to the federal level, but don't let the state level off the hook. We need to send letters to governors. We need to send letters to legislatures, because that's the reason why I think there's another void when it comes down to voting. We have to understand that the federal government is pushing everything back down to the state level. And so when folks say, well, why do I need a vote? Who cares who's governor? Who cares the local sheriff? Who cares about the coroner? This explains why their vote matters most. To Robert's point, that's why we got to get out to vote, not just worry about who's going to be the president and the senator and Congress leader, who's going to be the governor, who's going to be the state legislature, who's going to be the secretary of state, attorney generals. All these individuals, these constitutional offices matter most. But more importantly, to your point, we got to create this, because nobody's going to come out and save us. Nobody's going to come out and report the stories like how you're doing. And that office next to you should be filled like yesterday, because we can raise the money. We have the capability. We have the capacity. We just got to get it done.
I'm telling y'all, it's real. And this is why when y'all hear me on this show talk about the business of news, when you hear me talk about the lack of advertising, I'm not saying that just to be saying it. There is a reason that CNN, MS Now, NBC, ABC, CBS, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, Detroit News, Detroit Free Press, Los Angeles Times, I can go on and on and on. There's a reason they have staffs the way they do. It's the revenue that they are receiving. And the reality is that in this business, there's been a black tax. I have said this numerous times on this show. And if y'all go read Brett Pulley's book, Brett Pulley, who works for now Bloomberg, he did a book called The $1 Billion Bet, Robert Johnson and the Inside Story of Black Entertainment Television. In that book, he talks about when Viacom, which is now Paramount Skydance, when Viacom was purchasing BET, it was acquired for $2.8 billion, $2.4 million, the assumption of $400 million in debt. Mel Karmazin, who was the CEO of Viacom, and then you had Sumner Redstone, who was the controlling shareholder of Viacom. They looked at the numbers. BET was getting $1,500 per 30-second ad, 30 or 60 seconds, for an ad that MTV was getting $8,000. I told you, Todd Brown, my frat brother who was running the business out of Ebony, they were getting $20,000, Ebony Magazine, for a full-page ad that Esquire, a smaller magazine than Ebony, was getting $200,000. You've heard, y'all, I'm gonna go back to the BET. If Bob and Sheila Johnson, the co-founders of BET, if they had been receiving the fair market value for BET, they could have sold BET they could have sold a third of BET for the same $2.8 billion and still own 2/3 of it, a majority interest, and would have made the same amount of money. Y'all, that's advertising. But what happens in this business, there is a black tax. Advertising agencies and brands do not value black people, black eyeballs, black readers the same as they do white. They don't. They value white people more because white people, on average, make more money than black people. So when y'all hear, oh, we drive culture, folks are paying attention to us, all that's true. But these brands and these agencies, and the agencies are nearly all white. They do not value us the same way they do them. And I'm gonna take the same thing. So that's just not in corporate America, it's also in politics. Here we are, y'all. It's August, I ain't got no problems telling y'all. It's August 26th. I have not had a conversation with any of the, now we already know Republicans ain't going, I take that back. It's not true that Republicans won't advertise on my show. They do advertise on my show. They do not pay me directly. What they do is they pay YouTube. So when y'all are watching my show, Republican ads will pop up. They're paying YouTube. That means Republicans have gone to YouTube and they've said, buy Roland Martin's show, buy this black show, but we want our ads to run on before or after or during these shows. So that happens. But if you look at all of these Democratic progressive groups, which you would think my audience aligns because in terms of their voters, have I had a conversation with the DSCC, the DGA, the DNC, all the different groups, the PACs, all of them? Nope. Have not. No insertion orders as of today have been submitted. No money spent. I'm saying that because I need y'all to understand media businesses are driven by advertising. So when this show and black newspapers and other black media companies do not get our fair share of advertising dollars, we can't hire staff. We can't hire reporters. We can't hire editors. We can't hire graphics folks. We can't hire producers. That's how it all runs. And I'm telling y'all right now, I have in my possession, I literally have a plan of action that I've had. And this is a plan of action that I created, y'all, when I ran Tom Joyner's BlackAmericaWeb.com 25 years ago. I have a plan of action that will create a national reporting team, but it has to be funded. So just understand, we're begging white mainstream media to cover stories, which we know they're not going to do. So when we say, please support us, understand this is what this means. I would love to dispatch one or two or a team of reporters to North Carolina and Mississippi and Florida to cover these suspicious deaths. The money simply isn't there. So we need to understand this is why you don't see independent reporting, not people just talking. And this is going to be my last point. And I want y'all to hear this, and this is no shade on anybody. It's an undeniable fact. This show does more interviews with black newsmakers than any other show in America. If you take the interviews of the Janai Nelsons, Cliff Albright's coming up Monday through Friday, I'm not talking about giving opinions. I'm talking about actual interviews. There is no other show that covers the number of black newsmakers that we do every single day. There's no other. I challenge you to find somebody who does. Why am I saying that? Because that's also how you're able to cover these things. But what's really important is to be able to send reporters to places on the ground to really do in-depth reporting. And the money simply isn't there. We would love to do it, but that's not the case. And that's why support is critically important. And we're going to, of course, in a moment, I'm going to talk to Cliff Albright with Black Voters Matter. But we want y'all to do this here. We're going to go to a break. But if you want to support what we do, and I'm telling y'all right now, I literally got the report. I was on the phone with a sister who was a reporter driving in. I was just at NABJ. I'm telling y'all right now, if that $2 or $3 million came in, I would actually have those reporters hired and editors hired in 30 days, maybe 15 days. So we got the plan, got to have the resources. You want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. That's QR codes for credit cards as well. Checks and money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 200-377-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered, Venmo, RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back. All right, folks, let me get personal for a second. My mom had questions about her Medicare, so she called Chapter, a Medicare advisory company, and she texted me right after saying it's a great benefit. It was easy. A real person walked her through the whole thing, and now she understands better what's going on. But it's not just her. A woman in Yonkers wrote in saying the process was so simple, the enrollment was easy, and she was so glad she called. Then there's Marilyn, 90 years old, in Florida, living on Social Security. Her premium climbed every single year north of $400 a month for coverage she could barely afford anymore. So what does she do? She called Chapter. They found her the same top-tier coverage for hundreds of dollars less. 90 years old, and finally somebody in her corner. I hear stories like that again and again from our community. The Medicare system was not built to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans. Yet Chapter's advisors are independent and honest, the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. They're focused on one thing, what actually works for you. If you're already in the right plan, they'll tell you. No games, People who switched to a chapter saved an average of $1,100 a year. All it takes is 20 minutes. You talk to a real person, and it's completely free help. So call Chapter at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281. That's Chapter.
Let me ask you a question. Why do so many people seem to think they know black men so well? What they think we want, what they think we need. Hell, they even tried to tell us why and how we voted, but never had a conversation with us. Never asked us how we felt, what brings us joy, what makes us angry, what makes us scared. How do we live? That's what this show is about. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. We can speak for ourselves. This will be a show where we bring brothers on that you don't see on every other talk show. Nope. Brothers that are doing work in local communities with black men for black communities. We're going to hear each other and try to understand, so perhaps we can move forward together. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. Nope. What we need is each other. No translation, right here on the Black Star Network. Check it out.
This is Bill Duke, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
Folks, the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals has revived Georgia's longstanding redistricting dispute. On Tuesday, the court overturned a lower court's earlier ruling that the state's 2021 electoral maps violated the Voting Rights Act. The case has been sent back for a complete reevaluation. The judges ruled that the lower court must determine whether there is a, quote, a strong inference that the maps were intentionally drawn to dilute black voting power, rather than simply demonstrating that the maps had a discriminatory effect due to permissible partisan gerrymandering. The decision follows a significant Supreme Court ruling in a similar case from Louisiana. That's Louisiana versus Calais, which notably altered the legal standards for assessing racial discrimination in redistricting. The Supreme Court stated that the plaintiffs must provide evidence of present-day intentional racial discrimination. Talk about being utterly ridiculous. Now, rulings like this are the reason why grassroots organizations like Black Voters Matter exist. Cliff Albright, Latasha Brown, and their team are dedicated to ensuring folks understand the importance of voting. That's why they are starting an initiative called Grassroots and Grills. The initiative will be a national GOTV cookout activation that recognizes the autonomy and power black voters must fight for, and that the best messengers on these issues are within local communities. Cliff joins us right now. Cliff, glad to have you here. So, all right, Grassroots and Grills. Now, we ain't talking about grills for your teeth, right?
That's right. No, we're talking about the grills that you might pull out on Labor Day, which we all know is coming up. And we know that, there's the tradition of throwing a little something on the grill, and everybody wants to pull out the stuff and see who knows how to handle the grill, and is charcoal or gas better, and all that good stuff. And so what we figured is, since folks will be gathering around, since you're going to be around a bunch of friends and family, how about we turn it into a party with a purpose, or a cookout with a purpose? And so we started this initiative to get folks and give folks the tools that they could use to help facilitate those conversations. And so, we have a toolkit, and the toolkit's on our website, blackvotersmatterfund.org, blackvotersmatterfund.org. And you could take a look, but basically it gives you a guide on everything from how to invite people, what type of people invite, where you might want to have it, because it doesn't just have to be a cookout that you're doing at the house. Maybe it's something at the church, maybe it's something at a community center. But the idea is wherever we are gathering and doing a cookout, or maybe it's just a regular old dinner, right, that folks are getting together for. But the idea is to get folks together, to have a discussion guide to kind of lead you through some of the topics, what questions to ask, what are some of the ground rules, and all that good stuff. But basically, and we've got, other tools in there for the follow-up, so that everybody who comes to one of these, whether it's 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, we want everybody who comes to take a pledge to show, when they leave there, they need to leave there as an organizer. So what are they going to do? Are they going to volunteer to do phone banking, volunteer to do texting, volunteer to be a poll worker or a poll watcher, a poll monitor, which is a whole nother campaign that we got going on, because what we've been saying is if they're going to have 1,000 DOJ monitors, we need to have 10,000, 50,000, 60,000 to monitor them and to monitor what's going on. All of that can be a part of the discussion at your Grassroots and Grills event. We just want to provide the tools and the inspiration so that folks feel comfortable saying, look, since we are here, while we having this drink, while we eating this chicken or burger or hot dog or whatever it is, let's have a discussion.
Cliff, what you're talking about is something that I am consistently advocating for, which is micro to macro. And that, listen, stop expecting somebody else to do something that you can do. A lot of people, Cliff, out there say, I don't have any power. And I'm like, you're wrong. There are people in your life. There are people who you know. First of all, you deal with you, then you deal with your house, then you deal with your neighbors and your family, and then your street, your block, your neighborhood, your city, your county, your state, your country. But that's micro to macro. And I just think that all too often we just say, oh no, I just don't. And I go, okay, how many text group chats do you have? How many Signal group chats are you in? How are you communicating with those folks? Are you deliberately asking people, hey, the voting registration in our state, the deadline is this. Are you registered? And then they say, well, no, I'm not. Okay, what's the problem? Now let me walk you through why this election matters and what's going on, and we got to get you registered. If each person said, I'm going to reach out to 5 or 10, and 100 people do that, now all of a sudden, that's how it grows.
That's right. That's right. And that's been our approach. Every time we go someplace, if you've ever seen somebody wearing one of our, not this shirt, but the Black Voters Matter shirt with those 3 words on the front and it's about us on the back, one of the things I always say is if you see somebody wearing that, they're an organizer because they had to do something to get that shirt. We don't just give them around willy-nilly, right? That means that person more likely than not opted in to receive information from us. And on the spot, what we ask them to do is forward that to 5 friends, 5 families. Like you said, if you got a group chat, just go on and drop it in the group chat, drop it in the family chat. But by doing that, you've now touched 5 people, 10 people. You are now an official Black Voters Matter organizer. That's why they got the shirt, because they are actively involved in spreading this message. We were just in Michigan. We just launched our bus tour, and I was up there in Michigan. Shout out to Flint. I got to meet Little Miss Flint. Shout out to folks in Pontiac, my man Kermit, and Tamika. Shout out to Detroit. But we were just up there, and as we were driving around the bus and giving out shirts and getting people signed up and everything, sometimes we come across somebody who ain't even got a phone. And they're like, well, what can I do? And we said, look, can you take these 5 cards? Can you find 5 people to have this conversation with? And they're like, I got you. I said, you promise? I got you. And they are serious. And I see them going down the street and doing it. Everybody can be a part of this, whether, you just texting 5 friends or whether you're doing a Grassroots and Grills or whatever it is. We want everybody to not just look at Cliff or look at Roland and say, oh, look at what they're doing, or just waiting to see what some other organization is going to do. Like, we all have something that we can do to have these conversations, because at the end of the day, we can't do what we've normally done in a year like this. I'm not even just going to say the thing about it's the most important election of our lifetime. Yeah, that's true. But we've not seen at this scale, a Department of Justice talk about sending out 1,000 monitors, not to protect the vote, but we know to take away the vote. We've not seen at scale ICE agents and federal agents going, yeah, we've dealt with like some cops and some sheriffs at this precinct or that precinct. But the scale that we are talking about, the full force of the federal government conspiring with these states that we know are already gerrymandering and suppressing our votes, we can't do the usual thing. We can't do it with the usual army. We have got to expand the army in a number of troops that are having these conversations, mobilizing our folks to vote, but not just to vote, but to also play a part in monitoring and protecting our vote. That's the challenge that we have at hand. And that's why this Grassroots and Grills is so important, because those discussions have to happen at scale, and they need to happen where folks are already gathering.
Absolutely. Questions from our panel. Let's start with you, Derek.
Cliff, it's always good to see you, my dear brother. Listen, I appreciate Black Voters Matter. And I understand voter suppression is real. But my question for you is not just voter engagement, but turnout. We continue to see turnout 28, 29, 30%. We just had an election here that we're going to talk about later on during Roland's show, where the turnout was in single digit. What can we do as you all keep crisscrossing, going from state to state, city to city, to increase that voter turnout? I get voter suppression. Yes, I get it. But we have to do more at this grassroots level when we engage at the community, block to block, so we can see an increase in voter turnout.
Yeah. I'm so glad that Roland has my good brother Derek on there. Good to see you, man. I think that it's happening, right? In fact, a lot of the recent data from all of these elections that have been taking place, especially since the Calais decision, has been that that's exactly what's happening. I mean, as well as I do, part of the reason Georgia Republicans decided not to move forward with putting redistricting on the map in that special session that they had was because they saw the turnout, they saw the organizing and the rallies and everything that were taking place at the Capitol. You and I were there, right? But they also saw the turnout that was happening in the elections that took place just that week. I wouldn't be too concerned. I mean, the election that took place here in Georgia yesterday was a little bit of a special, like literally a runoff of a special election, right? And so those are always going to have lower turnouts than the others, right? But I think that we've been turning the corner and that folks have actually been getting more and more mobilized. With that said, it's not enough. I get your point. We've got to do more. That's why we're doing the grassroots and grills, not just for the voter suppression part and the poll monitor discussion, but for the discussion to turn out the vote. We need as many people as possible involved. And again, having these discussions with their friends and families, talking about the issues, not just talking about the election as a process, right? Or as an obligation, but really, around those grills, having discussions around, what is it that we try? One of the questions that we have in the guide is, what are the issues that you're concerned about that you think can be impacted by this upcoming election? Right? And just have a discussion on which issues do we think are touched by this election? Is it housing? Is it healthcare? Is it the pothole at the end of the road, right? Is it the schools? But just having that discussion will eventually, and then there's some other questions in the guide to help facilitate, to help people to connect those dots. That's a turnout discussion to your point. So I agree completely. We've got to do more to get this turnout. And to Roland's point, we've got to do it with less resources than we're being asked to do more with fewer resources. But the answer to your question is what you do every day, brother, and what we do every day, what Roland does every day. We've just got to expand the tent and get more people having and facilitating these discussions. I've got this crazy notion as part of our core beliefs at Black Voters Matter that if you want people to turn out, you got to talk to them. Call me crazy, but if we want people to turn out, we got to talk to them, and we got to talk to them about what it is that matters to them. That's got to be the center of the discussion and not the electoral process or the candidate or a party. What's their issue that they are concerned about? What's their dream? What's their vision?
Robert?
Cliff, so good talking to you again. So I was hosting the morning show on Monday on WAOK, and I realized one of the biggest issues we have right now is a enthusiasm gap on the kind of progressive side of the aisle, because everyone can tell you everything that the other side ain't doing and why they're mad at them. But very few people are willing to articulate a positive message going forward that we can tell people this, that, and the other are exactly what we are going to do going forward if we win or if we have more power. What can the average person do to better articulate to their friends, family, people who are at these cookouts, these grilling events, to better articulate what exactly is the positive vision going forward if you turn out and vote?
I love it. Thank you for that question, because that's actually a big part, especially of the conclusion of the grassroots and grills, or the body of the grassroots and grills. It's getting people to have that discussion. We got a thing that we've been talking about and Roland, you probably heard Latasha or me, or my wife April talking about. We talk about being the new architects, right? The new architects. even as this country is celebrating 250 years, as we think about the next 250 years, we are not just characters in a story. We are the authors of that story. We are the architects, the designers of what the next 250 looks like. And so part of what we want to happen during these grassroots discussions, or at least at some part of it, and in fact, we got a whole little pamphlet that we're sending out to folks so that, like, if you want people to leave with a different something to get them thinking about that vision or talking about that vision, we got a pamphlet on this new architects thing that we've been talking about. But the point is that you are absolutely right. If you want folks to be motivated or to turn out, it can't just be because of what we're against. It's got to be, for some people, that's enough, right? For some people, it's enough for us to talk about all the crazy stuff that Trump is doing, the racism, the high prices. Like, for a lot of people, that's enough. For some people, those of us that it's hardest to get to, they want something more. They want something bigger to strive for. They want a different vision. They're not just trying to go back to 2016 because 2016 wasn't that good, right? We trying to go to something completely different. And if folks don't hear that in some of these discussions, then some of our folks just tune out. Like, if they don't hear that bigger vision, that more fundamental change, that we go into a different kind of a place and that we've got the power to get there, then there's some folks you're just not going to touch. I was having this discussion sort of yesterday on another program, and the conversation was actually about the whole Hakeem Jeffries thing, and it got into like just that whole discussion. I'm not trying to go there. But the point I made during that discussion is that some of these ideological battles, what you are talking about, it's not irrelevant. It's not just theoretical. Part of it is because if folks don't see something different out of our leadership, out of our elected officials, out of our journalists, out of our organizations, if they don't see a different kind of fight or a different kind of vision, then they're not going to go all out, not only to vote, and I'll say this is the last thing I'm going to say on it, because we got to get folks so inspired, not just that they're willing to go vote, but that they are then willing to fight for and defend that vote when the ultimate attempted steal happens, right? That takes a higher level. It takes this level for me to come out and vote. But if you want me to like come out after the vote and fight against them taking the ballots or trying to cancel election or refusing to seat somebody, you had to do more than just get me to vote. You had to have me so inspired about something bigger, something that I can feel that I'm willing to do a little bit more than just vote. And so, yes, you are absolutely right. We've got to, all these conversations need to be rooted in like what people's vision is, what the agenda is. And it's got to be a big agenda because our folks are tired of being told that we got to think small or think about some crumbs when then the next day we see trillions of dollars going for a war or for this thing over here or being sent to this or whatever it is. We want something big for us.
Joe.
Building on the questions that have been asked and a little overlap, admittedly, clearly there's a lot that needs to happen. And a big part of it is that people that are your audience have to get the urgency of the moment. To your mind, and this might be a larger discussion than just the Grassroots and Grills Initiative, which is great, and I'm glad you're doing it. How well are we getting it? And if it's you talking to someone one-on-one, et cetera, what you're hearing, what people seem to be receptive to or not, in terms of helping them to get it at the level we need to get it, is it more, do you find a conversation has to be had about the past, reminding of everything that we went through and how people's blood, sweat, and tears gave them the opportunity to vote? Is it about the current state of today? Do we use something that's happening in the news, which we could do almost every day right about now, in order to be the hook? Or is it about the future, or is it a combination of all three?
Yeah, it's. I'm not even sure I would say it's a combination of all three. It is a combination of all three, but in that one discussion, right? Because it's not a cookie cutter, right? The truth is each one of those things that you laid out is the correct answer depending on who you're talking to. And that's what's often missing in a lot of the voter mobilization that we do, is that we got a script. Like literally, like if you're doing phone banking or you doing canvassing with an organization, there's a literal script that you're supposed to go through. Like I know you all know because y'all are pros at this, right? And what happens when you're talking to somebody who doesn't, like what motivates them doesn't fit what's on the script? what happens if you got a whole script that's designed around, like you said, how hard we've had to fight and had folks have to march and die to get the right to vote, but that script doesn't fit that person because that person wants to talk about the food prices, right? Or the health care and the medicine that their grandmama can't afford and they got to take care of them. And so, but vice versa, there might be somebody who you come at them talking about the issues and the prices and all that, and they don't care about all that. All they want to talk about, what motivates them is our right to vote and how they're trying to take it away and everything. And so there's no one script. Each conversation has to be customized, even when we have like an end result that we may be trying to get to, right? Like we want to get you signed up. We want you to volunteer for Grassroots and Grills. Like, there's some objective we have in these conversations, but how we get there, the route is important, right? The destination is important, but the route that we go to get there is also important. And when we pick the right route for the right person, that's where the magic is at. We were in a conversation with this crew on the street in Michigan, in Flint, that I know any candidate, most organizations would have went right by them. Because they didn't look like a super voter, right? They didn't look like they voted in every election and every primary or whatever, but they was outside. And so we was gonna have a discussion with them, right? And by the end of that discussion, because we were talking about the things that they cared about, when we got ready to pull out on the bus, the brother shout out, he literally said this, "Y'all can't go yet." Now, how often do you see that? Most of the time you see folks trying to rush to get out of the conversation. But he said, y'all can't go yet. When you have the right conversation with the right person that touches on what it is that they care about, that's where the magic is at. So each of those things that you laid out is important. And we got to, as organizers, have the capacity to be able to go in any one of those directions. I always say, a lot of people think that an organizer is about being a good talker, right? And I always say, no, being a good organizer is about being a good listener, right? And so we got to be listening and listening as much as we talk. Right. And we got to have the right conversation for the right person with the clear objective at the end.
All right, Cliff, tell folks where to go get this toolkit.
Grassroots and Grills website, blackvotersmatterfund.org, blackvotersmatterfund.org, or check out any of our socials because we got stuff on our socials. Most socials is at Black Voters MTR, Black Voters MTR, or text us. Text We Matter to 25225. That's We Matter to 25225. Any of those options will get you the information that you need. Just go to the website. It's about halfway down on the page. You can't miss it. Grassroots and Grills. And I almost forgot, Roland, the first, how many is it that we're doing? I forgot already. I think it's the first 450 people who signed. No, not 450. Anyway, if you're part of the first 250 to sign up, we've got a kit for you that's got a dope apron with Black Voters Matter on it. We got a barbecue sauce from a Black-owned company. We got some, and we got a deck of cards so you can play your spades or your bid whist or whatever, because the cookout ain't complete without that. So we got a little box for you, but you got to be part of the first, I'm going to say 250. My team's going to be mad at me. You got to be part of the first 250 to get it. So get to the website, get the toolkit, sign up, and let's do it, y'all, because we got us.
All right. Cliff Albright, always a pleasure, my brother. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Robert. Love you, man.
Appreciate it, my brother. A New Jersey Court of Appeals refused to dismiss the Trump administration's case against Black Congresswoman LaMonica McIver. McIver, who represents New Jersey's 10th Congressional District, was arrested in May last year while visiting the Delaney Hall Immigration Facility in Newark during a protest alongside other officials, including New Jersey Mayor Ras Baraka. Federal prosecutors charged her with impeding and interfering with federal officers, claiming she pushed officers during the event. McIver denies the charges, calling them politically motivated intimidation. She and her counsel said that the Constitution prohibits her prosecution because she is immune from prosecution for acts related to her duties as a member of Congress. McIver claims the Department of Justice's decision to charge her was selective and vindictive. McIver is the only member of Congress under indictment by the DOJ. She's facing up to 17 years in prison. The daughter of the late Georgia Congressman David Scott has lost the special election runoff to fill the remainder of her father's term. Everton Blair defeated Marcy Scott in Tuesday's runoff. David Scott, who served in Congress for more than 2 decades, and made history as the first black chair of the House Agriculture Committee. Passed away in April. Again, he is going to fill the remainder term, so that's between now and when the new Congress is sworn in January. All right, folks, got to go to a break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, let me get personal for a second. My mom had questions about her Medicare, so she called Chapter, a Medicare advisory company, and she texted me right after saying it's a great benefit. It was easy. A real person walked her through the whole thing, and now she understands better what's going on. But it's not just her. A woman in Yonkers wrote in saying the process was so simple, the enrollment was easy, and she was so glad she called. Then there's Marilyn, 90 years old, in Florida, living on Social Security. Her premium climbed every single year north of $400 a month for coverage she could barely afford anymore. So what does she do? She called Chapter. They found her the same top-tier coverage for hundreds of dollars less. 90 years old, and finally somebody in her corner. I hear stories like that again and again from our community. The Medicare system was not built to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans. Yet Chapter's advisors are independent and honest, the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. They're focused on one thing, what actually works for you. If you're already in the right plan, they'll tell you. No games. And people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100 a year. All it takes is 20 minutes. You talk to a real person, and it's completely free help. So call Chapter at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281. That's Chapter.
Let me ask you a question. Why do so many people seem to think they know black men so well? What they think we want, what they think we need. Hell, they even tried to tell us why and how we voted, but never had a conversation with us. Never asked us how we felt, what brings us joy, what makes us angry, what makes us scared. How do we live? That's what this show is about. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. We can speak for ourselves. This will be a show where we bring brothers on that you don't see on every other talk show. Nope. Brothers that are doing work in local communities with black men for black communities. We're going to hear each other and try to understand so perhaps we can move forward together. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. Nope. What we need is each other. No translation, right here on the Black Star Network. Check it out.
I'm Chris Tucker, and you watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. While you keep rolling with Roland.
Folks, we've been talking about what's been happening in Gary, Indiana when it comes to the power. A devastating storm blew through on August 11th, causing significant damage, and folks have been without power. Well, now the lights are back on for almost all of Northwest Indiana. Northern Indiana Public Service Company has restored power to most customers affected by those storms. Almost 375,000 people suffered blackouts, 40,000 of those customers in Gary. Outages in Gary and Portage were among the last addressed by the gas electric company. As of today, NIPSCO reported 99% of its customers have power again. The outages dragged on for 2 weeks in the predominantly black city, where residents described dire living conditions and disruptions to daily life. Gary Councilman at Large Miles Talivert joins us right now. Councilman, glad to have you back on the show. And so, okay, 99% is back, but are people still in need? Because a lot has happened. Let's understand, and I've been there. I'm from Houston. I lived through 3 hurricanes. When you lose power, food is destroyed. You got to throw all that food out. You also have folks who have to incur expenses. There are people who were posting on my social media saying they were dipping into their savings in order to go to hotels and things along those lines. So are residents still in need?
Well, first, thank you, Roland, for bringing me back on to shed light about the city of Gary at this time. I definitely share those same sentiments. My power was just restored today. 15 days is entirely too long. Families have been suffering, just like I have. We have thrown away everything in our refrigerator, our deep freezer, and my family was also displaced. But we have actually racked up hotel bills upwards of about $3,000 since the storm has happened.
What relief is there for residents? Can they seek relief from FEMA, from the state?
Yes. So we finally got in contact with FEMA. The president actually had a phone call with the mayor on yesterday. FEMA, we're setting everything up now where citizens are able to start to fill out those forms because we know that our citizens are hurting, our businesses are hurting. Again, 15 days is entirely too long. So we are getting that FEMA assistance. And we are also still having our shelter for those citizens that are displaced, and we are giving out meals around the clock at our City Life Center. I would like to also thank everyone across the community, Roland, especially your outlet, because with me being on, I've received phone calls from people as far as Alaska wanting to help our community because they know that we have been suffering for entirely too long.
Glad to hear that. You know, I'm always trying to explain to people that people need to understand folk watch this show from all over. So I'm glad to see the response that is happening there. How are y'all also holding NIPSCO accountable for taking so long?
So my next step with NIPSCO is one, still applying pressure to them right now. We still have about 540 residents without power. Again, I was just restored power about an hour ago. So what I'm going to ask for NIPSCO to do is to do a proper assessment, and I need to see the assessment when it comes to vegetation, when it comes to outdated infrastructure, transformers, lines. We need to start holding them accountable and making sure that they're doing the upkeep. Again, they've just asked for an increase not too long ago for us to spike our utility bills. And I want to also mention, Roland, that during this crisis, they still were taking money out of people's account, still taking them out. So auto billing, people were still getting money taken out of their account while they don't have service by NIPSCO.
Questions from the panel. Robert, you first.
So with all this, what resources are available for people around the country who want to help, who want to contribute, who want to send money? What are some reputable organizations that people can reach out to in order to help the people of the community?
Yeah, so I would encourage them to go to the City of Gary website again, and then they can also go to gary.gov. Again, that's gary.gov/storm recovery, and you're able to make donations, monetary donations, and you'll be able to give funds that will definitely be given to the residents that have been impacted and the things that they need and the necessities they need right now. Because again, we understand that right now we're getting a lot of help, but it's time for us to start stockpiling things because again, a lot of families are low on food and water. So we want to ensure that we can get these refrigerators back full so our residents can start to have, life again and get back to normalcy.
Joe?
Thank you for what it is that you're doing. Any negative trend disproportionately affects people that are already behind. Does this give you a chance to have a discussion as a city about things that Gary needs to have more of and needs to be better off pertaining to? And if so, larger discussion. And if so, tell me about those battle lines. You talked a little bit about infrastructure a bit ago. I see that. What are some of the other areas in which Gary needs to be better resourced and to use this really as an inroad to a conversation related to that?
So I think that right now we need to start to have a contingency plan put in place so that when any of these type of disasters come, that we will be able to have, again, things in place where we can talk to NIPSCO, where they can talk to other entities outside of the state, and just to make sure we have the resources for family. Again, this was a generational storm, and this is something that we're new of. And we haven't experienced, but I can promise you, especially with our administration, that we are starting to have real tough discussions on how we can ensure that our citizens won't have to go through this ever again.
Robert?
All right, what?
Okay, Derek.
Hey, Miles, great to hear that power is being restored. And as a legislator, my heart goes out to you all. But I want you to just share with the audience um, how long it took for FEMA to show up. And when FEMA showed up, what all did they provide you all? Because in my humble opinion, we get several hurricanes or tornadoes through Georgia. And I continue to argue as a legislator that the FEMA formula needs to be updated. I think and the reason why I think it needs to be updated, because when they come here with $100 gift card for a family of 4, that $100 gift card is not going to sustain that family for, in your case, 15 days. So can you just share, when FEMA finally showed up, what did they bring in hand to help Gary to get back on their feet?
So I want to just say this. I haven't seen FEMA in the city. I may be wrong. I drove around today, but I haven't seen FEMA actually in the city. Now, they are telling us that we could put in our applications and fill in the forms so that we can be provided service, but FEMA is not actually in the city of Gary, Indiana.
Wow. So that even explains more, Roland, that there need to be an automatic trigger for FEMA to show up. I mean, because when the governor declares an emergency, that should automatically trigger for FEMA to have the trucks rolling towards Gary, Indiana. That's horrible.
Bro, we're talking about the Trump administration. They've already made it clear in terms of how they operate. So let's just be clear. It has been a shit show since they've been there, and FEMA has been awful under Donald Trump's leadership.
Yes, but I'm just grateful again, Roland. I want to tell you about your outlet. I think that you bringing light to these type of things that are happening in all the communities. My parents are with Memphis right now, but with this situation being put into the spotlight, I think it's well enough where we can start to have leaders across the country to be prepared for this, and also for other Black leaders to start having conversations so that if we don't get the help from FEMA right away, we can use our resources as a people, so that our people won't be struggling across the country.
Well, absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why I'm always saying to our folk, utilize Black-owned media, get our story out there, because we can't depend on other people doing that. You talk about Memphis. Control, Carol, y'all supposed to be checking on that. You had about 100,000 folks in Memphis who were without power as well. And again, I tell people all the time, a lot of these stories never ever go up to catch the attention of these national media outlets. And so this is why being able to tell our own story absolutely matters, because we ain't got to seek anybody's permission to tell these stories.
Absolutely. And if I could just for a second, Roland, I want to say thank you to Denise Williams, Keon Henderson. These are Gary natives, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Freddie Gibbs, AT&T Lowe's, Darius Garland, our content creator, Kamisha Bell. She gave us a lot of attention on TikTok, which pushed us forward, where Keith Lee actually came into the city and had a food fest. So I'm appreciative of that. And DJ K. Caesar, which has been awesome, because we've been having events throughout the community where people are able to eat, they're able to listen to live music and keep their mind off of being in the dark. And just with all the stakeholders in the community, I just want to tell them thank you. We really showed how strong Gary, Indiana is as a people, and how resilient we are, and that we can do anything we put our mind to as long as we work together and just believe in each other. So I just want to say thank you to all of them.
Again, if you want to provide any resources to assist the folks in Gary, Councilman, give the website out again, and y'all go ahead and show it, please.
Yes, it's going to be at gary.gov/storm recovery. Again, that's gary.gov/storm recovery.
All right, then. We surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
All right, folks. And again, the folks at NIPSCO and their parent company, they owe folks a lot of answers. The NIPSCO leadership is Vince Parisi, President and Chief Operating Officer of NIPSCO. Come on, show the photos. Karima Hassan Bey, Vice President, Gas Operations. NiSource is the parent company of NIPSCO. The CEO is a brother, Lloyd Yates. He's President and Chief Executive Officer. You have Sean Anderson, Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. You have Melody Berman, Executive Vice President of Administration and Chief Human Resources Officer. Melody Birmingham is the Executive Vice President and Group President of Utilities. Kim Kuchia, Executive Vice President, General Counsel, and Corporate Secretary. William Jefferson, Executive Vice President and Chief Operating and Safety Officer. Michael Lures, Executive Vice President of Technology, Customer, and Chief Commercial Officer. Angela Sanchez is Vice President of Chief Communications Officer. Nice source. They should be giving some answers to the people in Gary, Indiana, and in Indiana for what actually has taken place. Folks, got to go to a break. I'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to contribute, please do so via Cash App. Use a Stripe QR code. You see it right here. That's for credit cards as well. Check and money orders. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037 at 0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo RM Unfiltered. Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back. All right, folks, let me get personal for a second. My mom had questions about her Medicare, so she called Chapter, a Medicare advisory company, and she texted me right after saying it's a great benefit. It was easy. A real person walked her through the whole thing, and now she understands better what's going on. But it's not just her. A woman in Yonkers wrote in saying the process was so simple, the enrollment was easy, and she was so glad she called. Then there's Marilyn, 90 years old, in Florida, living on Social Security. Her premium climbed every single year north of $400 a month for coverage she could barely afford anymore. So what does she do? She called Chapter. They found her the same top-tier coverage for hundreds of dollars less. 90 years old, and finally somebody in her corner. I hear stories like that again and again from our community. The Medicare system was not built to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans. Yet Chapter's advisors are independent and honest, the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. They're focused on one thing, what actually works for you. If you're already in the right plan, they'll tell you. No games, and people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100 a year. All it takes is 20 minutes. You talk to a real person, and it's completely free help. So call Chapter at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281. That's Chapter.
Let me ask you a question. Why do so many people seem to think they know black men so well? What they think we want, what they think we need. Hell, they even tried to tell us why and how we voted, but never had a conversation with us. Never asked us how we felt, what brings us joy, what makes us angry, what makes us scared. How do we live? That's what this show is about. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. We can speak for ourselves. This will be a show where we bring brothers on that you don't see on every other talk show. Nope. Brothers that are doing work in local communities with black men for black communities. We're going to hear each other and try to understand so perhaps we can move forward together. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. Nope. What we need is each other. No translation, right here on the Black Star Network. Check it out.
You're watching Martin Unfiltered.
The family of a black Texas woman received more than $11 million in a wrongful death settlement. Tuesday, the Fort Worth City Council unanimously approved a settlement for Atatiana Jefferson's family. It resolves all civil claims against the city related to Jefferson's death. On October 12, 2019, then police officer Aaron Dean shot Jefferson while responding to a call at her home. In 2022, Dean was convicted and sentenced to more than 11 years for manslaughter. Again, the sister was at home, minding her own business. Her nephew was there with her. This shock and outrage many folks there in Fort Worth as a result of the shooting. And again, he claims it was an intruder, but that's not actually what happened. It was certainly a devastating story that took place. And again, one of numerous stories that we've actually had to cover here when it came to these particular actions. This is what City Council member Chris Nettles said. We know that this amount of money is not necessarily justice to her life, but it's what we can do as a council. This mayor, the city of Fort Worth does care about the residents of the city of Fort Worth. Now, this story here says, according to the terms of a family agreement, Jefferson's two nephews will receive a greater share of the settlement than they otherwise would have. The portions will be placed in a trust until they're 18. Additional shares will be divided among Jefferson's family. This is what the mayor said, quote, Atatiana Jefferson's family and loved ones have suffered a profound and unimaginable loss. This is Mayor Maddie Parker. While no settlement can undo the devastating impact of this tragedy, we hope this agreement offers a meaningful measure of closure and allows everyone to move forward. Robert, I want to start with you. We've dealt with these stories numerous times, and a lot of people have criticisms of attorney Ben Crump and others. We've had Harry Daniels on this show, Darrell Washington, Lee Merritt, and others. And I'm constantly trying to explain to people who seem not to understand the role of lawyers in this case. And the role is this. They don't prosecute cases. That's the district attorney. When you hire lawyers in these cases, a huge part of that is for them to lead the negotiations when it comes to these settlements. This settlement here is a quite large settlement. We've seen others that were less than $1 million, but we've also seen, I need people listening to understand this, because of the work of Crump and others, we've actually seen an increase in a lot of these settlements than they used to actually take place.
And look, Roland, I'm going to take people back to criminal law from 1L year. Purposes of punishment. What exactly are you trying to achieve through punishment? You're trying to achieve, one, preventing the individual or the entity from repeating that action. So you create a level of punishment that will dissuade them from doing that going forward. When you're on a municipal level, if you're trying to stop a city or a county or some police district from committing crimes against African Americans, then the civil penalty is going to be the primary means by which to enforce that against a governmental entity. You can't put the whole city in jail. And of course, we would like to have the direct justice of convictions and arrests and prosecutions. But often, the civil settlement, these civil judgments are the only mechanism by which families can achieve some level of justice and success. And that money can be reinvested into communities. It can give us an opportunity for better training programs, better community programs. It provides an opportunity for us to build more going forward. So yes, we cannot let the perfect be the enemy of the good, and understand that the work these attorneys are putting in is hard work. At the end of the day, these people often are left with very few options. So I do applaud the work of Attorney Crump and many of the others who work in these areas, as I have for many years, because these families will not have justice of any kind if they do not have civil justice often.
In fact, Ashley Carr, Atatiana Jefferson's sister, said this, quote, the officers, she said that, first of all, that this is a, quote, rare instance where a family receiving accountability. She said the officer responsible for Atatiana's death was convicted and sentenced to prison, and now her family has reached a civil resolution with the city of Fort Worth. We recognize how uncommon it is for families impacted by police violence to receive accountability on both fronts, and we do not take that for granted. We know there are countless families who have fought and continue to fight for the accountability and justice they deserve. While we are grateful for that Atatiana's case resulted in both criminal and civil accountability, neither a conviction nor a financial settlement can restore what was taken from our family. Nothing can bring Atatiana home. Joe.
Yeah, I was going to make the point that this is one of those rare instances in which there's actually a criminal resolution where there is criminal accountability. And I tell people all the time not to count on it and not to make their ability to move forward and get through, even though you don't get over losing a family member. You do not get over, but you try to get through. But don't make that dependent on the resolution, frankly, of either of these sides, even as you push for it, whether criminal or civil. Even though you push for it, even though you want it to happen, there's no guarantee that it happens. And in this case, they got both. They got both criminal liability as well as a civil liability. Now, given that there was criminal liability, it made it much more likely that there would be civil liability because anybody that's going forward on this case knows that there's a lower standard of proof, more likely than not, versus beyond a reasonable doubt. And so the criminal ending really helped to solidify the civil ending, and at a level where this family can get through. And so I'm glad that when these things happen, I'm glad for the Ben Crumps and the Lee Merritts of the world and the Robert Patillos and all of us that are doing this, because not only can it grow the pie, but it can draw attention to a larger issue. And with even some good fortune, maybe the trifecta is that you really do something to hopefully to affect change, differences in policies and things like that. Sometimes the Justice Department would go along with that and to help facilitate and make that happen. We can't count on that anymore, at least not for now. That's why election has consequences, as we said before. Rewind the show, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just getting onto it now. But I'm glad that they got the result that they did, but it is hard work, and there's nothing easy about it, and there's nothing guaranteed. And look how many years past we are. They've lost a lot of time in the meantime. So, but thankfully that happened. They can get through and on to the next one.
Derek.
My thoughts and prayers are with Ms. Jefferson's family. But Roland, I just want to expand our aperture here. I mean, when we talk about accountability, this $11.25 million, that check is written by taxpayers. Right? And so we keep seeing these stories over and over again. Every now and then, a bad apple will be held accountable, civil and criminal, right? You got to spend 11 years in prison. But we've also witnessed the last 18 months, to your earlier point, Roland, where we continue to see this administration continue to give police immunity, right? I mean, ICE killed some folks this year. Police officers killed some folks, and those families have yet to see justice. And so I think that taxpayers shouldn't be footing the bill. We need to go after those who should be really held accountable. So that way we can no longer have a Miss Jefferson who is at her home playing a video game with her family and end up dead. This $11.25 million is not going to bring her back home like her sister stated. But we don't want to make this the last effort. And so if we really want accountability and responsibility to really hit hard, let's stop having taxpayers pay this check. Let's go after those individuals and really hit them where it should hurt.
Totally understand and agree. All right, folks, going to a break. We come right back. More drama at St. Augustine's University in North Carolina. Bankruptcy hearing, and let's just say the judge is pissed. I will explain next, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, let me get personal for a second. My mom had questions about her Medicare, so she called Chapter, a Medicare advisory company, and she texted me right after saying it's a great benefit. It was easy. A real person walked her through the whole thing, and now she understands better what's going on. But it's not just her. A woman in Yonkers wrote in saying the process was so simple, the enrollment was easy, and she was so glad she called. Then there's Marilyn, 90 years old, in Florida, living on Social Security. Her premium climbed every single year north of $400 a month for coverage she could barely afford anymore. So what does she do? She called Chapter. They found her the same top-tier coverage for hundreds of dollars less. 90 years old, and finally somebody in her corner. I hear stories like that again and again from our community. The Medicare system was not built to work for you. Too much fine print, Too many plans. Yet Chapter's advisors are independent and honest, the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. They're focused on one thing, what actually works for you. If you're already in the right plan, they'll tell you. No games, and people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100 a year. All it takes is 20 minutes. You talk to a real person, and it's completely free help. So call Chapter at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281. That's Chapter.
Let me ask you a question. Why do so many people seem to think they know black men so well? What they think we want, what they think we need. Hell, they even tried to tell us why and how we voted, but never had a conversation with us. Never asked us how we felt, what brings us joy, what makes us angry, what makes us scared. How do we live? That's what this show is about. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. We can speak for ourselves. This will be a show where we bring brothers on that you don't see on every other talk show. Nope. Brothers that are doing work in local communities with black men for black communities. We're going to hear each other and try to understand so perhaps we can move forward together. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. Nope. What we need is each other. No translation, right here on the Black Star Network. Check it out.
I'm Ryan Wilson, CEO and co-founder of The Gathering Spot, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Folks, how many times have we been covered this St. Augustine's University story? Of course, they're out in North Carolina. They've had nothing but drama. And so much of the drama was created by the idiots who were on their previous board. Well, they had a bankruptcy hearing today, and let's just say the judge is pissed. This is from WRAL. The judge said there are too many surprises in this bankruptcy. And not only that, he blasted the lack of professionalism exhibited by the school's previous board. Put up their photos. These are the members of the previous board, okay? And so the main person, Brian Boulware, he was the chair of the board. Absolutely awful, completely awful leadership. A flat-out travesty. In fact, he got sued by another board member who loaned him some money for a business. That board member ended up winning $600,000. If you can't even handle your personal finances, how in the hell can you handle? Leave their photos up. If you can't handle your personal finances, how in the hell can you handle the finances, the limited resources of an HBCU? But y'all, the story gets absolutely worse. Look at this here. So the judge's reaction came up as a part of a discussion related to a pending lawsuit against St. Aug's and former board members Brian Boulware and James Perry. Former President Christine McPhail filed a lawsuit against them, claiming they foster an environment of discrimination against women. Now, here's the problem. The university bylaws state that the school is required to cover the legal expenses for board members. The problem is the school says it's going to cost too much money for us to do this. The story says Judge Warren agreed, putting a pause on that for now in order to protect the school's limited resources at this time. Quote, it's too much of a risk for the university. Okay, St. Aug filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, y'all, in April. They're not going to have classes this fall, making their problem even worse. But how stupid were these board members? Put them back up, because I want to show these idiots how stupid were these board members, okay, led by Brian Boulware. The article says, Judge Warren said directors and officers liability insurance, called D&O, could have mitigated some of these costs, but Rogers says the school didn't have any at the time. How in the hell can you be a board of directors and you not have D&O liability insurance? Lawsuits happen all the time. But no, not in this case. The WRAL story says the insurance is used to protect company managers from claims that may arise from decisions and actions taken as part of their duties, according to insurance company Alliance Commercial. This is the judge. Quote, I'm just astonished people in fiduciary capacity for a university did not have a D&O policy. What else is out there that I don't know about or the public doesn't know about? Now, the attorney says they've got new university leadership. They've got new makeup of the board, all right? And so they now got to deal with this whole issue of bankruptcy. But this is what I'm always talking about, y'all. When y'all hear me talk about, and listen, I don't want to hear shit from y'all people who say, oh, if you didn't go to HBCU, you can't criticize HBCUs. Bullshit. I didn't go to one, but I've been a fifth, almost 60 of the nation's 103 HBCUs. I've done commencements. I've raised money for HBCUs. I support HBCUs, but I call bullshit when I see bullshit. And bullshit was the leadership of Brian Boulware and these other board members who were running St. Aug in the ground, making dumbass decisions like starting a football team where you didn't have the money, okay? You got buildings falling apart. You're not paying bills. Folks giving scholarship money, don't know where even to find it, and cycling through president after president. The purpose of a board of directors, first, is the fiduciary responsibility of the university. Second, it is to manage the president, not run the whole school, manage the president. St. Aug is in the boat it's in because of incompetent leadership led by Brian Boulware and the board of directors. You've got alumni who have been complaining. We were there, y'all. Roll the video for the town hall there for the folks who want to save St. Augustine's. And this is the problem we keep seeing with these HBCUs where you have these awful boards of directors and trustees who have no leadership, who ain't never run nothing in their lives, and now they're in control. And so these people have run this school in the ground, and here you have this amazing institution, lots of land there, could be providing education for the next generation of black kids, but no, they got no classes in the fall because the dumbasses who were on the board before, and yes, led by the chair, Brian Boulware. He can't even handle his own personal finances, but he was the chair of an HBCU. Just absolutely, utterly ridiculous. Derek, you're shaking your head, and it pisses me off because you've got alumni giving money, trying to save it. They care about their school. You're there in North Carolina. A lot of black kids can get educated, but you got idiots who are running the board who literally have run the institution into the ground, and they now are in bankruptcy because of awful board leadership.
And Roland, again, accountability and responsibility, right? I mean, why is it that this institution have to cover the cost of poor leadership, or inept leadership, or unqualified, unfit leadership, right? I mean, it hurts my heart because I was on your show when you first revealed all this last year or year before last, and here we are. I don't care if you're white or black. If you cannot do what you're hired to do, in this case, lead the board and make sure that all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. And if you don't know, you go out and ask someone like a Robert. And I mean, we got two lawyers right here on your panel. And I didn't go to HBCU neither, in full transparency, but my children did. This has nothing to do with if you're HBCU or PWI. Can you fulfill the role and responsibilities of the chair? If you can't, don't do it. Roland, I'm lost for words. Fiduciary responsibility, you first ask yourself, do we have insurance? Do we have insurance? That's your first question. Because something's going to happen on a college campus, and you need to make sure that that college campus is covered. I'm lost for words, Roland. I'm lost for words. I'm lost for words. Because these 6 individuals should be held accountable, and they should be personally, not the school. These 6 individuals should be personally held accountable, criminal or civil. That pain needs to hurt, and it should not be on the backs of a university.
You know, Robert, what's so sad is that, and we've heard from so many of them. We've heard from so many of these folks, and they've been fighting. So I told you about the lawsuit from Christine McPhail, who was the president of St. Aug. She died in March, cancer. She died. And, you know, it's so sad. She actually, the story says she announced her own passing. If you're reading this, know that I have transitioned to be with the ancestors after a courageous battle with cancer. While I deeply wish for more time with each of you, I'm profoundly thankful for every moment we shared, the conversations, the laughter, the lessons, the growth, and the love. This woman was named president. Her husband had served as president. She got fired in 2023. See the story right here. She got fired in December 2023 amid tensions with the school's board of trustees. Yeah, the same clueless idiots who were running the school into the ground. She became president in 2023. They hired somebody else. Hell, he barely lasted a year. Now they own another president. I mean, it is like, it's drama after drama. And Robert, all of this drama with this board. Brian Boulware was such a coward, Robert. He wouldn't come on this show to discuss what was happening there. He was such a coward, he wouldn't even face alumni. He was such a coward, he wouldn't even show up. But he remained in that chair. And the problem with private HBCUs and private universities, you don't have anybody over St. Aug, meaning the board picks the board leadership. And so it took board members removing him and others to get new boards. But what I keep saying, Robert, is that if you show me a HBCU in America that has major problems, I can guarantee it's because of an inept and incompetent and a power-hungry, narcissistic board of trustees.
And look, Roland, that goes from every HOA, every fraternity and sorority. When the people in charge are doing their job, the entire organization falls apart. And from the criticism of not being HBCU alumni, I am a Clark Atlanta University alumni. It was my sophomore year when Morris Brown College went out of business. You can ask anybody over around 40. The AUC was completely different after Morris Brown wasn't there anymore. And this is the important point that we need to key in on for all these people who run these organizations, people who want to enrich themselves. Is it's supposed to be for the young people. It's supposed to be for education. It's supposed to be for the betterment of our community and ourselves as a people. You taking these things onto yourself and either corruptly or incompetently running these organizations is a disservice for the entirety of our community. And particularly right now, when you have a administration which is dead set on removing every benefit of African Americans in this country, they will like nothing better than to shut down every HBCU. They will love nothing better than get rid of every single scholarship program for African American students. They will want nothing better than to expand their war on woke to remove every single opportunity we still have. So just for the time being, while we are in this period of fighting for our lives on the national and international level as a community, could we just not have any nigga shit for the next couple years? Good God Almighty, just not right now. Return to it at some point in the future if you have to, but not right now. We got too many other things going on. For God's sake, why would you do this at this period of time?
Here's the other thing, Joe, that we have to understand that this does. One, you got no classes in the fall. So that means you got some black students who could be there and getting educated. That means you got faculty looking for jobs. You got staff looking for jobs. You got a whole downstream. It also means that by not having the students and the faculty, you're now impacting the economy of Black Raleigh. Because students are operational. The restaurants and the stores, everything that's around there, you're impacting their revenue as well. And again, I got all these issues with St. Aug, all driven by the incompetence of the board. And the reason I keep saying Brian Boulware's name, because he's the chair. The buck stops with the leader. He had no business being in that position. He should have been fired by this board a long time ago. And every single problem that they have had, these idiots signed a deal that had an exorbitant interest rate for some money they borrowed. I mean, it was beyond stupid. Nobody signs that kind of a deal. And the problem we have here, again, and this is what really bothers me the most, Joe. Here you have an HBCU that is on the brink of being defunct. You can't blame nobody white. You can't blame the Klan. You can't blame no racists. You can't blame Donald Trump. You can't blame MAGA. Who you can blame are some grossly incompetent black people who had no business being university trustees.
You know, being a university trustee is more than a notion. And really, if you're doing it the right way, it would feel like another job. And it's real hard. Robert said it one way, and I'm with you. I'll say it a different way. You know, you got a whole lot of people out here that want to be HNICs, and this ain't the job for it, okay? This is a cycle that is hard to reverse. You've got a crisis of trust now. So if there are no classes this fall, to your point, there's no classes. So you've got students that are less inclined to be there. You've got professors that are less inclined to be there. Anybody that's picking jobs between a place that had classes this fall and a place that doesn't have classes this fall, they're going to pick the one with the classes this fall. So one of the things that has to happen is that you have to find some way where people that would otherwise be inclined to give to the university, maybe someone with a personal connection, alums, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they've got to have some assurances about what's going on going forward. What is the crisis? What is the plan? You know, even with this sister, may she rest in peace, that passed, that was a former president. When you we all know this, listen, when you actually get rid of someone after they make a complaint, that means that that lawsuit is coming and that you're not going to be able to get rid of it early because it's an issue of fact as to whether or not you retaliated against them because they made a complaint. She made a complaint about gender discrimination, you fire her. So this is crazy. And let's not even talk about the thing that I learned. Admittedly, I didn't learn so much of it in law school, but I learned it not long afterward. Insurance, pen and piece of paper, everybody. Insurance runs the world. If you can't insure something, that's why you have insurance, so that you can deal with these things that happen, so that you can defend lawsuits, so that you can defend the malfeasance of individuals, including but not limited to board of trustee members. So they've got a whole lot to learn here. And the question becomes whether or not this is a cycle that they're going to be able to get out of. Because my sense is it would probably take a generation to restore the trust and to get to a place. And to the point that was made a little bit earlier, the worst part about it is it's a whole bunch of black folks that just want to be in charge and sit back and act like everything is everything. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the Trumps of the world are jumping on this. They're jumping on it. They want to undo and unalive these HBCUs, where we get most of our teachers, where we get most of our doctors, where we get most of our lawyers, where we get most of our educated professionals. So we've got a lot more to lose than just a college going away. This is a big thing because, among other things, they're going to ascribe this to us and make it about us, where I can name 10 white schools around here in California and close by that aren't going to have larger racial implications if they fail. So we got more to lose here. And so hopefully somebody smells the coffee, wakes up, and gets a plan for this place to go forward so that the crisis of trust can begin to be dealt with. But it is much easier said than done. Because right now, I don't know if I give them 5 cents for cheese on a Whopper. Be honest with you. Right now, I don't know that I do that. So they better get that figured out in a hurry. Because a lot of people are getting undone economically, et cetera, the general area, the geographic area, et cetera, messing with people's lives, potential careers, actual careers. This is nuts.
Let me be clear. So, first of all, show the photo again. Brian Boulware and James Perry were both chairs of the board. They were both chairs of the board. Okay? Both of them must own this. If you look at this list right here, Joseph Lynn is still on the board. Let's see here. Bishop Dyson, Samuel Rodman. No. Go back to the other graphic. I got this. Thank you. Please leave it there. Okay? So Lynn is still on the board. Samuel Rodman is still on the board. Then you have Antonio Tony Knox, who is still on the board. and hopefully they were the board members who joined together and voted those other yahoos off. So this is the new board, okay? So this is the executive committee. For the first time, they have a female board chair. Sophie Gibson out of Atlanta. V. Lynette Mitchell from Williamstown, New Jersey is the vice chair. Joseph Lynn, who I just told you, is secretary of the board. Then you have Charles Elliott, Terry Mazzani, Samuel Rodman, Harold Taylor, Colonel Dr. Matthew Webb, and board members Mr. Boyd Joe, Dr. Antonio Tony Knox, Dr. Kimberly Jeffries Leonard, Dr. Kenneth Mund, Charlotte Clark Turpin, and the interim president is an ex officio of the board, Virginis A. Peoples. The reason I am, again, why this angers me so much, and y'all, we've covered the drama at Bethune-Cookman, Florida A&M, so, and let me be real clear, to anybody who think you're a hater, we've also covered the great things that are happening at HBCUs, whether it is Tuskegee, Bowie State, Spelman. We got a whole segment called HBCU Connect. So we broadcast from HBCUs. Our interns are from HBCUs. So y'all can't come at me. You can try, but don't let me drop some receipts on your ass. But the reason this angers me and why I'm so mad is because black folks rubbed pennies and nickels to create our institutions. What drives me crazy is that black folks went through hell raising money, fighting to create institutions. Y'all, this right here, St. Augustus, y'all, goes back to 1867. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? It goes back to 1867. That black folks went through Reconstruction. They went through the black laws. They went through Jim Crow. They went through lynching. They went through holy hell to create opportunities for the next generation. That's what they did. This is what black folks went through. And this generation of black people, who are supposed to be the smartest, the most financially successful, have essentially destroyed a historically black college and university. Every board member that participated in self-dealing and awful decision-making, I wish this was Thailand, because every single one of y'all asses should be publicly flogged. Y'all should be, I'm telling you right now, if I was the pastor of the church any one of them folk went to, I'd tell their ass to leave. These people should be persona non grata everywhere in black America. Because they not gonna have classes in the fall. Losing accreditation, filing for bankruptcy, owing millions, signing awful contracts. This is ineptness at an epic level. And you got black folks who have been crying, praying, fasting, having bake sales, fish fries, fundraisers to pay the bills, paying off students' debt so they can graduate. Do y'all know how embarrassing it is for black people who had nothing and they sustained a university, and this generation of HBCU pimps destroyed it? I'm telling you right now, if I meet James Perry and Brian Boulware, I'm gonna cuss their ass out publicly. They should be ostracized for what they did to this university. If they in a fret, take their damn letters. Because their lack of leadership, their lack of fiduciary responsibility. You so damn dumb, you don't even have D&O liability insurance? Do y'all know one of the first things that I bought was liability insurance? Pray for the current leadership, y'all. And I really hope, pull leadership, the new leadership, I really hope that sister, Sophie, I really hope the executive committee, I really hope that you can go to my iPad, I really hope this executive committee, I hope they are reaching out to some of our best and brightest. I hope they are tapping into people who know what they're doing, because y'all, if there's any moment where we let me hear, y'all, you hear what I'm saying? If there's any moment where we desperately need private HBCUs, it's now. Because I done told y'all the public HBCUs, especially in southern states, where you got Republican governors, they under attack. This is not a moment for us to have folk who have no idea what the hell they doing sitting on boards. And y'all, I've been saying that, whether it's HBCUs, whether it's churches, whether it's church denominations, whether it's NAACP, whether it's Urban League, whether it's Rainbow Push, whether it's Alpha, any of the Divine Nine, National Association of Black Journalists, I ain't got a problem calling it out. First and foremost, let me be real clear. If your ass sit on a board and you ain't writing a check, you don't need to be on the board. A trustee of a university, you got 3 jobs: fiduciary responsibility and governance over the institution, governing the president and their leadership, and third, raising damn money. The Chicago Theological Seminary wanted me to be on their board of trustees. I declined because of my schedule. And let me tell you something, you know what they had? They had a requirement that you had to either give or raise $20,000 every year to be on a board. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. And Robert, Joe, and Derek, y'all know I ain't lying. It's some folk who sit on HBCU boards, they grifters, they moochers, they cost the university money. If you gonna serve on a board's institution's board of directors, you had better be donating money or raising money. Because if you not, all you doing is costing money. And I'm telling you right, I don't care what it is, Robert. I don't care if you are a public HBCU, a private HBCU. I don't care, whatever the black institution. Don't put folks on your board who can't give or raise money. And if they costing you money, throw their ass off, especially when it comes to lawsuits. Robert?
You're absolutely correct. And I think people have to realize the financial part of colleges. You don't get all of your money just from tuition, as many people believe. If you have a board that does not have, we got to stop appointing people to boards because they're somebody's cousin or because they were on a magazine or because they played football. You need people with a proven track record of actually being able to work either as an executive director, development director, going to major corporations, going to philanthropists, going to alumni, and raising 7-figure amounts of money on a regular basis. Other than that, what are you on the board for so you can pick out the colors for homecoming? We have to start taking these things more seriously if we want to be taken more seriously. And this is just a black eye that we don't need right now, given everything going on in Black America.
Hey, Joe, I'm telling you right now, I need leadership of these black boards to make it perfectly clear. And listen, I don't care. Listen, in the case of NABJ, we are elected. You got to write some kind of check. I'm telling you, I believe in minimum donations. Hell, 500, 1,000, whatever. But if it's a university board of trustees, oh hell yeah, you got to bring some money, or you can't be on the board.
Yeah, I was just having an exchange with our former campus president, shout out to Dr. Appleton at University of Redlands for many years ago. And one of the things I said in the email is that I'm contemplating ways to be involved and to give back. But I take it so seriously, Roland, that I know that you need to give a certain level. You can't come to a party like that and not bring nothing with you, not have something in your pocket. Okay, so what I said I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish this donation we doing over at Northwestern Law for Joyce Hughes, who was the first black professor that was tenured, black woman professor in law school in a predominantly white institution in America. I'm gonna do that first, and then I'm going to shift over and maybe have a discussion with my undergrad alma mater, because I know how seriously to take it. I've had preliminary conversations, but I'm like, look, I don't want to do that until I know that I have work that I can take care of and my X number of files here over at this office, because I know what kind of commitment that it takes, financial, time, and you got to be on your game. This is what you call an active board. There are a whole lot of boards that you can sit on, maybe this local organization, that local organization, where you come in, you do a meeting for 90 minutes once every quarter, and everything is good. That's not a board of trustees. That's not a university board of trustees, a working university board of trustees. So you have to take it seriously and prioritize it, particularly when there's so much at stake. So, we've got to change what we think about that. To that point, no, it can't be, Pookie and Ray Ray's cousin and them, and somebody who made you feel good because they got 20 touchdowns, 10, 15 years ago, but they're not accomplishing too much professionally. And you should be doing background checks. Shouldn't just be somebody that's popular. Do some background checks and see if there are any public judgments. See if the word on the street is these folks don't like to pay their bills. See if the word on the street is they don't remember that song where Gary Guthrie said there's no romance without finance. Figure that out so that you give yourself a better chance so that you actually have the right people.
Yeah, I'm just telling you. Derek, I have interviewed too many presidents who have been fired, who left, and the most consistent thing is damn bored. But you show me a stable HBCU, you know what you got? A stable board that has real leadership, that understands governance, that understands raising money, and they know how to let the president do their damn job, and they not trying to run a university. And Derek, I ain't got a problem saying it. And the other problem is, Derek, where you have these state HBCUs and you got these white Republican governors, they appoint some Simple Simon Negroes who they would never appoint to a board of trustees of one of them white universities. I have looked at the resumes of some of these people and I'm like, how in the hell did they get appointed to a university board of trustee? These are people, a lot of these people ain't got no P&L responsibility. They got no background of fundraising and finances. And I know somebody's saying, man, damn, Ro, you going hard. Yeah, I'm going hard because there's nothing more. Listen, when I took over the Chicago Defender and that paper hadn't made money in 20 years, hell yeah, I felt a responsibility to Robert Abbott, who founded the paper in hell yeah, I had a responsibility. I had a responsibility of the Dallas Weekly, a responsibility at the Houston Defender, to the folk who created this. And so for this generation to allow our institutions to be dying on our watch, hell no, I ain't holding my tongue.
And we shouldn't hold our tongue, Roland. I mean, can we just zero in on the leadership piece? Can we underscore that? Because I don't care if it's the chair of the HOA or the leader in a fraternity or sorority or at church or a college institution. The buck starts and stops at that leadership position. I mean, and to underscore this, Roland, and I love the way you framed it. I mean, look what's happening in our country right now. I mean, the president of the United States, what has he done right? Nothing. I know it's a rhetorical question. And so when you think about why we should call it out, and I agree with you, calling it out, because leadership matters. As a retired military officer, 22 years, there's no way those thousands of sailors and officers under my charge, if I was an inept, unqualified leader, lives would have been lost. Lives. And so not just this is not just an economic problem. This problem, the gravity of this problem is far greater. I mean, someone can actually commit suicide, right? Because they can't find no other situation. And I'm not saying that will happen, but we just don't know. And so we have to call this out, especially when it's our own doing this. And the last point, I would say it this way, Roland. When you gave the date of this institution? 1800, whatever you said.
1867.
1867, Roland. Let that sink in for a second. And now all of a sudden, just because an inept, unqualified leader, chair of this board, just hurt an institution that was created in 1867, just a couple of years after the Emancipation Proclamation.
If you know Brian Boulware and James Perry, I hope y'all cuss them out. There's nothing more painful to me than to see black institutions die on our watch. Our ancestors left these institutions for us to be caretakers for the next generation. And what's happening at St. Augustine, what's happening there, what's happening at SAU is just a damn shame. And I don't want to hear no board member say, oh, it was the president. You oversee the president. You hire and fire. Oh, it was, oh, well, you know, we wasn't getting the resources. We wasn't getting, let me tell you something. You ought to be caretakers with whatever resources that you're able to get. And it's your job to make that thing work. It's your job to figure it out. It's your job to go out and fundraise. Y'all, there's a, St. Aug is a massive campus. There should be a major agricultural program at St. Aug. Tons of land there. But see, maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe you had some folk who were purposely trying to wreck the university to sell that land. Oh, let's be real clear. You can't destroy a university this bad on just by happenstance. I really hope the Attorney General of North Carolina, and I've been told that there is an investigation, I hope there is a massive investigation of every board member and the actions taken there. And if that was any inside dealing, any self-dealing, I hope they are indicted, prosecuted, and sent to jail. Because if there was ever a time when we need our HBCUs, it's now. And there's no way we should be silent when inept, completely incompetent individuals destroy a black institution that has been standing since 1867. Joe, Derek, Robert, I appreciate y'all being on today's show. Thank you so very much. Folks, this is why we do what we do. We don't mince words. I say it all the time. If you do good, I'm going to talk about you. If you do bad, I'm going to talk about you. At the end of the day, I'm going to talk about you. And we have some amazing HBCUs. We got some amazing alumni and students and faculty and staff and leadership. But there's some folk in our community who deserve to be called out. And we gonna do that. You want to join our Bring the Funk fan club? Please do so. The goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year. Y'all, our 8th anniversary, September 4th, we are on the brink of having a total of 50,000 donors. The number that we have, give me 1 second. I'm looking at the number here. We have, where is it? 49,656 donors. And so we are 40 away. Well, not 44 away. I'm sorry. 344 away from hitting 50,000. Now, it's enough of y'all who are watching right now who have never given to this show. And y'all are commenting for free. You're talking for free. You're doing all this sort of stuff for free. And we would appreciate if you actually join us. In fact, we are about 42,000 away from hitting 2 million YouTube subscribers as well. And so we're making this thing happen. But again, your support is critically important. So please contribute via Cash App. Use a Stripe QR code. You see it right here. The QR code is for checks, for credit cards as well. Checks and money orders. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo RM Unfiltered. Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app. We're close to 200,000 downloads. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Samsung Smart TV. Hey, all y'all laggards on YouTube, hit the damn like button. Y'all sitting in the like, we should easily be at 1,000 likes. Now, y'all messing around, so let's go ahead and hit that. Be sure to get our Roland Martin Black Star Network swag. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Is Robert Patillo gone? We got his flamethrower shirt right there. So also our MLK shirt, our other shirt, Don't Blame Me. Don't Blame Me. I voted for the black woman. All of our t-shirts, go to, of course, shopblackstarnetwork.com and support these black-owned businesses at shopblackstarnetwork.com as well. All of these folks, y'all, these black-owned businesses, phenomenal companies. Go to our marketplace. Every product that you see in our studio is available on the websites. I mean, we got crossword puzzles, skin care, we've got watches, we got stuffed animals, we've got books, we've got sauces. Y'all, we got all sorts of stuff. We got the items that nurses wear. I mean, you name it, we got it. HBCU gear as well. So again, go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Folks, that's it. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Holla!